Domain expansion is the most powerful technique a jutsu users could utilize in Jujutsu Kaisen, which is an anime. So domain expansion deal with an user essentially expanding or externalizing their space, and their space has their innate technique embedded within that space. So when they externalize, expand their domain, what happens is that they encapsulate their opponent in that domain, in that space, unless that opponent has his own domain expansion with his own innate technique embedded in it to fight against that person's domain expansion. AKA, this is a space battle where two people are trying to activate their own space to encapsulate the others inside it to be able to use their techniques on a maximum level. Because when it comes to domain expansion, they have a share hit effect where your techniques, what you use, hits way harder, has a sure hit effect within it in comparison outside of your domain expansion where you did not externalize your space yet. But here, when you externalize your space, create your own domain expansion, your own innate technique become more powerful to the point you might need to hit your opponent only once with it to complete the battle. Here, domain expansion is a concept that you could look at it from a metaphysical point of view, where we, all of us as spirits and observers with different minds and different mentality, we construct our own domain essentially. Because you gotta remember, you're a spirit and observer. Create your own mind. This is when you created your own first domain expansion, where you now are live in that domain expansion which you call your mind. And your mind first domain expansion has your technique embedded within it essentially. Here, this is why what you think and what you feel is obviously way more powerful within your own mind than in reality itself, because your mind was the first domain expansion you created, and you don't know how powerful your domain expansion and your own innate technique that you utilize to construct your mind, your domain expansion, is unless you go against another opponent who did the same thing as you did essentially. So when you meet another person and then you guys get into conversations, relationship, in contact, what happened is that you guys have a domain expansion battle where everybody has their own domain, their own innate technique made of different things and things like that. But when you guys come and clash against each other, your guys are trying to encapsulate each other in your own domain expansion, essentially in your own mind, in your own world. This is why everybody, when they meet, they try to bring each other closer by telling people what they're into, who they are, what they do, and things like that. This is nothing but you activating your own domain expansion to encapsulate the opponent, that person in it. And once in a while, you meet a person who might be strong enough, who has enough mental attributes to keep up with you and things like that. So what happened is that in that sense, when two people strong mental attributes, a lot of cursed energy, go through a domain expansion battle, is that they can't encapsulate each other in their own space because they're trying to overcome each other and things like that. But it does not work. They have equal footing, so no one could lose in a domain expansion battle here. But majority of the time, you might meet a person with a better domain expansion than you, or a system that utilizes domain expansion such as the government, religions, geographical locations, politics, and things like that. Their domain expansion ends up encapsulating you without you even realizing it. This is how all of us got brainwashed by other people, innate technique and domain expansion, without realizing it. Because you didn't realize in each geographical location they were doing certain mental domestication, which made you get affected by that spirit, the ruler, domain expansion. So now you don't know you got used on domain expansion and someone else's technique. You go through life not realizing that you're encapsulated within someone's space. These are the people into religion, these are the people into politics, these are people into sports, which is these things are not negative or bad. It's about how are you aware that you are in this space, and can you create your own space, your own domain expansion. And that's what we all gotta realize. Everything is nothing but a domain expansion battle, a space battle, where everybody's trying to consume other people in their own space, trying just to bring people in their own space. And I feel like there's a lot of great examples of domain expansion that we see all the time. You don't realize this. You utilize domain expansions every single day when you're arguing with something, when you're analyzing something, and things like that. You could even see it in macro and micro things. For example, you could view the Vatican Church, the Catholicism, as the Pope own domain expansion. That domain expansion was so hard, it literally rules the entire world within it. Or you could think of the domain expansion of, say, the British Empire, or the monarchy and the Queen. The Queen and the monarchy, their domain expansion was so big and powerful. These people encapsulated the entire world and created British colonies everywhere, and nobody was able to fight against the domain expansion. Or you could think about how your teacher in college or university was presenting certain information. This is you literally getting hit by his own domain expansion and his own technique, and there's nothing you could do about it but observe the information and things like that. So when it comes to domain expansion, it's not something that is not negative or a positive. It's something we all do and that we should become aware of if we don't want people to practice it on us. And the more we're aware of such metaphysical concept, the more we could be able to utilize them and encapsulate other people in our own technique. This is how we're in the shadow government world. This is how we're in the shadow government mind. This is why we get hit by their own innate technique, such as, oh, go protest bills, take these medications, get these bullshit jobs, and things like that. Why? Because we're in their own domain expansion, and then we have to work hard to build our own domain and expand ourselves outside that space, and put ourselves in a position to have a space domain expansion battle with the shadow government, or with your family, or with your friends in the neighborhood, or with anybody, and things like that.